All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Second half, mailbag time. You know what that means. It's time for me to answer your questions. In the first half of the show, I want to thank everyone that contributed on Twitter and X to these, just asking for basic. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to add like an overhang over the lower bowl. And it's going to be difficult to just put in more restrooms. But I think some of the suggestions that were made could be implemented even before this season when it comes to like the seat service and stuff like that. So thank you very much. I do appreciate you all for chiming in. And people also asked a lot of great questions. Let's get right to those right now. Jeff Coons, our buddy from up north, he said, "Hi, Jeff. Greetings from Not Matt, Canada. What is one realistic trade or free agent signing that you would like to see happen before or during training camp? Fill a gap on the roster for Omar." So I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later. I'm actually going to say that I would bring in Patrick Peterson. And I know that there's going to be people out there that say, "Jeff, he's washed up. He's not fast enough. He can't do it." I don't need Patrick Peterson to play on the outside. You have Dante Jackson. You have Joey Porter Jr. And you also have Deshaun Elliott, who's still going to take the lion's share of the snaps, probably from the slot. I need someone to do that Cam Sutton dime slot cornerback role. He's smart enough. He's still physically capable. He's familiar with the system. He loves Mike Tomlin. Let's make it happen. That's who I would sign. The Believers Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. He said this year the Steelers will average how many points per game? And it was under 20 again, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, or 30 plus. Now, I originally voted 25 to 30, but I actually would go back and probably change it to 20 to 25. I think they're going to be around 25 points per game. That's just my gut instinct. All right, Brian Haynes asked a bunch. He said all 6 of our championship teams are having an elimination tournament starting in reverse order. 05 faces 05. 08 faces 05. Winner faces 79. Who wins if health isn't a factor based on the performance that season, not career performance? Okay, so I think 08 would probably end up playing a 79 team, somewhere like that. It's funny because some people say that the best Steelers team didn't even get to the Super Bowl. I think that was that 76? I'll have to go back and check. Brian Davis would know. But so, yeah, I think that's an interesting question there. Brian also said pick 4 players on the team now to join you in a pickup basketball game. All right, so pickup basketball game. I want TJ Watt as my power forward. Give me Minkah Fitzpatrick as my 3. I'll be the 2, the shooting guard. My point guard, maybe Jaylen Warren. I don't know if he can handle the ball. And for my center, Darnell Washington. That's a hell of a basketball team. That's a really good team. If I could take myself out, it'd be even better because I'm not great at basketball. All right, let's go to another question for Brian. What's your prediction for the offensive line starting 5 for game 1? You're not going to like to hear this, but I think it's going to be as follows. Dan Moore at left tackle. I think you're going to have Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier at center. Right guard, we obviously have, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. James Daniels, thank you. And right tackle, I think it's going to be Broderick Jones. Don't kill the messenger. I think that eventually Broderick Jones goes to the left and Troy Fautanu comes in on the right side. Next one, Brian Haynes. With the suspension for Sutton, do we try and get someone else in here or do we just stick with who we have? I say, again, give me Patrick Peterson. Sign him up right now. He doesn't need minicamp and all this stuff. Right before camp, sign him. That's his role. Fill the role. And when Cam Sutton comes back, you have a good problem. Hopefully you're all healthy. And so if he doesn't make the team or he doesn't fit, so be it. But you want that veteran presence. I think it's valuable. Non-football question from Brian. He said, would you rather go on a guy's camping trip with SCN or family camping, tents and river camping, no electricity, running water, or cell service? I'm always going to pick my family, Brian. I know that SCN's like my extended family and they're great friends. And some people, even though I haven't met, I feel like I know them very well, but I'm going to go with my family. Always going to go with my family. And last one, would you rather never be able to watch a football movie or never be able to watch a golf movie? I would probably say when I think about football movies, there's some good ones. I love golf movies. So I would rather say never watch a football movie, and I'd always take the golf movies for sure. Okay, let's go to Omar Khan, the Omar Khan artist. He said, is it even likely to assume that the Steelers will get one extension done with any player this offseason? That's a tough question because when I think about this, okay, who would the extension go to? It's not going to go to Najee Harris. They had that option and they turned it down. Is it going to go to Pat Freiermuth? I wouldn't. He's pretty injury prone, and you want to see him do well on this offense. So who else is it? Maybe it's Jalen Warren, but they haven't talked about that. James Daniels says they're not going to contract probably. I'm going to say no for an extension. I'm going to say no. Let's go to Afton Forehead. Does Sutton's suspension increase the chance that the team brings in another quarterback? I think it does. I think the Steelers, I bet they probably had a plan in place. They knew he was going to be suspended. They might not have known for how long or the duration of the suspension, but I think they knew, and I think they do have a plan in place. And again, I'll say it again, give me Patrick Peterson. Really, I swear, just give me Patrick Peterson. I think that's what they should do. Zach Farnsworth said, hey, Jeff, what's one player on offense and defense you think may actually underperform from what the team expects of them this year? Thanks always. And he uses the hashtag Ride or Die Crew. We're all part of the Ride or Die Crew. So, Zach, one player on offense that I think is going to underperform. Yeah, I wrote an article for SteelCurtainNetwork.com, and I it was a scenario about will Pat Freiermuth reach career marks in yards and touchdowns. His career high in yards is around 700, and he had 7 touchdowns his rookie year. And I said that no, he won't, because I think that ultimately he hasn't been able to stay healthy. That's important. But also, I don't know if what they want to do is really going to equate in Pat Freiermuth being a Travis Kelce type offensive producer. So I think on offense, I'm going to say Pat Freiermuth. On defense, I'm going to say that Nick Herbig, everyone's expecting this huge step forward, that he's going to be a significant player. I'm smart enough, and you should be smart enough to know that Nick Herbig and that number 3 rotational piece as a pass rusher does not get used that much. So I think Nick Herbig won't have the burst that everyone's expecting. If he does, I would love to eat crow, but that's just my prediction. Let's go to Jay Allen. He says, rank these days from worst to best. The options are your birthday, Christmas Day, Steelers opening day, the first day of golfing in the spring, and the Super Bowl. From worst to best. Gosh, this is tough. Okay. We'll say worst, my birthday, because it's another year down, and I don't like getting old, just like no one likes getting old. After my birthday, I guess we'll say Christmas Day. Nah, I can't say Christmas Day. Then we'll say the Super Bowl, unless the Steelers are playing. Then we'll say Steelers opening day. And then we'll say the first day of golfing in the spring. I love that day. And then Christmas Day would be my favorite, probably. That's tough, man. That was you stumped me, Jay. Thank you very much. Thanks for the question. Let's go to Mark B. He said, who are your top outside options at slot cornerback with Sutton suspended for the first 8 games? I mean, I've said Patrick Peterson numerous times. If I was going to give you another player that I would love for them to target, it would actually be someone like a Stephon Gilmore. I know he's an outside guy, but can you move Dante Jackson into the slot? I don't know. I don't know enough about him, and I'm not going to lie to you and say that I do. Let's go to Annie. Hi, Jeff. What are your expectations for James Daniels this year after the anticipated O-line switch around? I think James Daniels is a phenomenal player. I think he's great. I don't think they're going to move him anywhere. I don't think that the Steelers are looking at James Daniels and saying, yeah, he's never coming back. This is the last year. Who's to say that if he doesn't have a great year again, that they don't want to keep him and Mason McCormick becomes nothing more than a depth piece? He's a 4th round pick. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a guaranteed starter. So I think my expectation is that James Daniels can have a good year. And I also think he's going to be set up for success down the road. Brandon Diaz asks a bunch of questions. First, why didn't Cam appeal? I don't know why. I gave you my thoughts about that early in the podcast. Maybe it was part of a deal made with the NFL. I'm not sure. Next question, are the Steelers closer to winning the Super Bowl or having a top 10 pick? I'm actually going to say closer to winning a Super Bowl than a top 10 pick. You got to be really bad to have a top 10 pick, and their roster is not that bad. Next, who will be the biggest impact player on all 3 sides of the ball? Well, I got to go with the quarterback on offense. On defense, you got to have TJ Watt healthy, because if he's in there, that's a difference maker, impact player. And on special teams, I think it's Chris Boswell. Adding points can't trump that. Next, Cam hasn't signed his deal yet. What's the holdup? More on the Cam or front office? So if you're talking about Cam Hayward, he's under contract. So there's no deal to sign. Now, he hasn't signed an extension. There's nothing that's out there that says an extension has been offered. So we've talked about this from our source that, Cam hasn't necessarily played his cards the best recently. So I don't know what the holdup is, but there is no contract to sign. Cam's under contract for one more year. Last one from Brandon. Can our rookies win the Rookie of the Year? Well, gonna have to say no. And the reason why is that a tackle and a center, unless Roman Wilson completely balls out or Peyton Wilson is just annihilating people on the defensive side of the ball, they don't have positions that are going to get the notoriety for Rookie of the Year. You're not going to see Troy Fautanu winning Rookie of the Year or Zach Frazier necessarily, because they just are not going to give that to a center or a tackle. It's just not the way it works. So I'm going to say no. Thank you, Brandon, for the questions. I do appreciate it. And as we always finish up the podcast with a little humor from Steeler Fan 69, he said, a duck walks into a bar and tells the bartender, a round of drinks on me, just put it on my bill. Love that. Next one. What is Beethoven's favorite fruit? It's banana. Banana. And last one. What type of generation is Forrest Gump? Gen A. Get it? Gen A, not Gen Z, Gen X, Gen A. Very good. Thank you very much. And this has been a very interactive podcast with all the people chiming in on Twitter and X. You can find me there at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. I urge you, wherever you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe, follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate the show if you want, but you don't have to, so that you don't miss anything, any of our podcasts. I'm going to say the website again, steelcurtainnetwork.com. Give us a shot. Make us one of your stops every single day. Great content there from a lot of different people that you hear on this podcast platform. And also, I got to plug fansfirstsports.com. Fansfirstsports.com. If you're a sports guy, girl, go check it out. I think you'll like it. But I'll be back on Friday. All bets are off with Jeremy Betts will be there. We'll have a lot to talk about as we get one day closer to Steelers training camp. It's exciting. It's coming down to the nitty gritty. Stay tuned. We'll have more for you here on the Steel Curtain Network. In the meantime, you know me finished out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday. Go Steelers.